So originally I was going to do a separate table talk for first impressions of Nibiru, but I think right now, while it's raw, would be a good time to do that. Really.
Sure.
So if we're open for like maybe a 20-minute talk, are people cool with that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
we've been exalting it over here while you were gone, so
So what's the general takeaway so far that I may have missed?
The general takeaway is that we all enjoyed it because of its interpretiveness, and we discovered throughout gameplay, obviously, something you normally do in session 0 is decide where your character's from, what he does. You have your character set. In this game, you're building your character as you're playing your character.
Right.
So it's got a very different feel, but in general, I fucking love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a really fun game.
I'd say from a player standpoint, there is so much fucking creativity that can just go into creating your memories, how you use your skills, what kind of influence you want to have over the scene. And then from like I could see it from the storyteller side, like just creating that ever-changing world and building it is just it's actually blowing my mind. This is fucking amazing. I love this game.
Yeah.
And
Corey?
I'm actually very. The thing that I probably like a lot about this is that I like how the system lends itself to the role play more than it does to the mechanics.
Yes.
Mainly because you can't build a twink character in this system.
No.
Like, at least
There's
it's
no
all
way to do it.
situational.
Yeah,
It's all
at least-
situational.
exactly. It's like you can, at the very least you can't do that right off the bat. Sure, maybe a player could go into this with the intention of like becoming big and badass, but all somebody has to do is roll a 4 on a death spitter and you're gone.
Yeah.
You are toast.
Death Spitters
So-
change things. I'm actually going to put some music on while we're talking here. So, Death Spitters. So for me, there's a big thing when you read into the book. It's very clear that Nibiru is meant to be a story game, not a combat game, right? Like that is apparent from the get-go. This is not a game where it's like I'm going to grab the gear and my Munchkin friends, we're going to just rip and tear our way through a storyline. Not at all. Because combat here, again, I like systems that make combat really, really meaningful because it stops you from just rushing into battle, right?
Yeah.
You start to have to think about alternative ways to solve a conflict. And tonight's game was not a conflict of this game. It was more about the pursuit, the chase. What are you going to do to get away? And really it comes down to a lot of like tricks and trying to manipulate the environment to get a one-up on what's going on. Because the Death Spitter, honestly, if Amir had walked into the room and just started death spitting everybody, that's not a fun game. Like, plus the way that the combat works, like that's like if I one-shot somebody, I'm likely to get a kill. And with his nightmare on top of
I
that,
got lucky.
Yeah,
I got lucky getting hit and only taking one. I
Honestly,
fully expected to be like in some pain.
Yeah, honestly, I was concerned. Like, shit, you could die with one shot because
Yep.
you're not wearing any armor.
But at the same time, one, I was gonna be eaten, and I'd rather be dead than have to sit in a cage again. Number one. Number two, these people helped me get out, and I kind of felt a little obligated to try and help defend them because we had nowhere left to run.
Right.
We had to make a stand, so that's why I thought Seth would try to make his stand there. All he had was a lock at the time.
Yeah.
And he used it to devastating effect against the nightmare. So,
Which was hilarious, by the way. That shit was
And I
funny.
mean that was kind of Morgan's thought process too. Was okay. I came down here with Asher because Merrick asked us to go and look for this dude who was like us. And then it was okay. Well, he's in a cage. That's not good. Oh, this other dude's walking away. Okay, we've distracted him. We're gonna come down here, and then he vomited, and I went, "Oh, bitch."
Yeah, he was completely insane. He was an insane druglander who was like, really, all our people are is we're repositories for human memories or experiments on memories. Something is controlling us. We're puppets to something else. And he's like, I can't risk Seth getting away to gather more data for our masters at the detriment of humanity. So I've got to kill you.
and I can see how someone could devolve
yeah.
into that just
Oh, yeah.
because we're all from different areas, so we all have completely different abilities, completely different memories, and it's like, well, what the fuck is going on? Are we something that was created and just implanted with these weird memories to eventually die or go back to whatever we serve, wherever created us, so it can learn more?
Yeah,
Like,
and
yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking.
if you think of Dreadlanders, Amir's nightmare, his constant like plague in the back of his mind was a chthonic being controlling everything. There's no
Yeah.
hope. So for him, as a Dreadlander, his natural recourse was to go insane. As
And for most Dreadlanders, I could see
Yeah.
that being a thing.
and as
Eventually.
he got more devastated, his nightmare got more powerful, which is why it was at 6 dice when he ran into you guys.
Yeah. Whereas I'm not quite that powerful yet, but I also kind of figure my version, especially the way I've been playing Morgan, my version of insanity is going to be a little different.
Yeah, it's we all die in the end. Is
Yeah.
what I'm
Right.
getting.
And it's
going to
manifesting
die.
itself in her like her anger
Yeah,
almost.
and that's
and
been
my
really cool.
bloodthirst.
And seeing like Seth be like, I'm doing all the athletic stuff because that's my memories are about a football player growing up in
Right.
a small town. I'm a good old boy, and that was really cool. And especially what's a deer? That conversation was cool,
Right.
I shot deer with my family. What's a deer?
right? And I liked the conversation with Asher because Asher's been around longer than anybody else. Like, yeah, I've seen some of this shit. Like, I kind of know where things are at. And I think Corey, you did a really good job of playing like that mentor type figure to the newer vagabonds. You had more of a grounding of what was actually happening, and you're like, yeah, this is a thing, but still, and you're trying to deal with these two younglings essentially.
Well, and, like I liked Corey's response to Seth, like just looking at Morgan like, what the fuck, and him just being like, you get used to her.
Yeah. And so being in the Umbra is dangerous territory, and there's a lot of undiscovered stuff in this area. And so for
We can
me,
tell.
yeah, for me, looking at the maps of like the Umbra and like of everything like the Umbra, the Penumbra, and the Antumbra, there's a lot of really cool hidden stuff everywhere actually. However, for vagabonds, it's more dangerous once you get into more civilized areas because the Covenant of Enki has much more sway. And I really liked the way that the lore is written to where you have to hide out. You know, you're unique, you're very special. You may hold the key to unlocking the secrets of the station, but you're hunted. You know? And it's really interesting because I recommend, by the way, for those that are in chat that love the game, please pick it up. As a matter of fact, you can get it on Drivethru RPG or Amazon.com. Or from the publisher's website. It's just a phenomenal freaking game, to be honest.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you
I
go to,
wouldn't mind going into his Discord, by the way, if you could link that later.
I actually will right now. So the author, by the way, this is a single author game, which is amazing.
Yeah.
As a person who's been
For
writing,
one dude running this
yes,
is
they have done a great job of making the game. Nakatu is a cool town, just in general. The way it's run, the way it's written up in the lore. This book was written with a lot of love, a lot of care for the lore, a lot of care for Easter eggs. Like, if you go through and try to take Old Persian, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but cuneiform? Cuneiform and Old Akkadian cuneiform, you can find little Easter eggs in the book itself. And that's really awesome. A lot of effort was put into
He
this
actually
book.
legitimately did sit there and do it for an entire frickin' day.
I 100% did. It's cool stuff. Like I honestly was kind of of two minds when I thought about it, because
I wasn't sure what to expect at all.
A
me
wild
neither.
gale has appeared in that server as well.
exactly. That's honestly like I was like I don't know what to expect here because I'm not
No,
sure.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like how this works. Like what's going on here.
I thought I was gonna do my usual like being quiet thing. You know, figuring okay, I'm a Dreadlander. I'm gonna be like real quiet, real like not gonna say much. And then I went no.
Yeah, it's really like it's a trip because if you think about it, like the way the world's set up, it's super self-contained and it's a lot of fun. I think it's really cool to see how characters develop over gameplay. That's the biggest thing for me. Like it's the gameplay part. Like you change your character via gameplay. It's not like you have to have your entire history written from off the bat. It's not like you have to. And by the way, here you guys go. It's not like you have to know everything from your history, because when you come to being, you're a blank slate and you build yourself off of the memories that you earn and the memory points you burn. Now, mind you, tonight's game, I started people up with higher influence points and memory points. I started with 6 of each because I thought, we're doing one shot. I want to have them have the chance to really like mold the environment and play with things, and let's kind of like play with the nuts and bolts of the system. And I, at first, honestly, I thought it was too much. Like, I gave them 6. Is that a lot? But over the course of gaming, like, who had influence points left at the end of tonight?
No,
I did.
I was out.
So
Because
one
every
person
time I
did.
used a memory, I gained them back.
Yeah. So again, and that was interesting because I asked the author, like, what do you feel like? How do Dreadlanders? Is they're negative they gain for buying memory points like permanent? Like, why would you want to spend memory points as a Dreadlander? And they go, well, it's because you game the system. You want to go for the three fours or 3 of a kind, etc. type stuff to gain positive memories by using influence points. Because every time you spend influence points to get a memory, and you get negative to it, like a penalty, you gain influence points. So you use that to gain the 4 of a kind 4s to actually get positive memories. And once you fill up a pulled page, you can actually get a revelation that lets you take negative memories away and replace them. So there's a different strategy and build to Dreadlanders, right? And I was like, wow, I had not realized it at first. That's actually really cool. And they were...
I picked the difficult one to play. Woo!
Yeah, they were super cool
Okay.
about it, though. Like, the author, they're awesome. Like, seriously, any question you ask in Discord, they're happy to respond to. If you're asking questions about, hey, what's a good idea for this? Like, for me, Kraj doesn't have a mechanical entry in the book, right? So I'm like, well, here's what I'm thinking. What if one dose of Kraj allows you to go one step closer to your stable zone for 1 lapse? And the author is like, you know what? They go, that's a good idea. Actually, that works just fine. So it leaves a lot of interpretation for storyteller. Primarily, though, it leaves a lot of interpretation for the players to really get involved in the game. And I think it's been really cool. Like, I'm really happy with
I
it.
agree.
Yep.
I think tonight I wanted to end it at kind of like an oh shit moment. So when you guys actually came in and awakened that ancient like pillar, that ziggurat, any nightmares that came into the area were going to be disintegrated by an arc of electricity from the tower to destroy them.
Wow.
And that would have been Morgan's or Lucas's. Either one would have been destroyed. You guys are vagabonds. You wouldn't have been touched at all.
Yeah, this is definitely a game system I wouldn't mind for our normal game nights to eventually make its way back. This is a game I would like to explore further.
Really?
I would love to see more of this game.
So how do you feel about the setting so far? Because I know I originally did not let any of you read the book.
No,
I
hadn't
wasn't going
touched
to
the
even
book.
if you did.
Yeah,
to be
because
honest.
I wanted you guys to come with fresh eyes. Like, when I bought this book from my local gaming store, what got me was the cover. And then the back end has this really awesome description of Nibiru in a nutshell. I'm like, oh my god, I want to check this book out. Now, mind you, my LGS, they sealed it. So I'm like, I'll pay. I'll buy it. I get my one gaming allotment every couple of months. I'll buy a new book. And I was not disappointed. I did see some portions.
This is one of the few times where judging a book by its cover actually paid off.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, in the background, and plus, by the way, I'm standing in the store, like I'm pulling my phone up, right? I'm like, all right, what reviews have I seen for this book? What are people saying about it? And there was a lot of positive stuff. Like, it's really creative. There's a lot of love built into this game. You can tell a lot of like effort and time was sunk into it. The art works phenomenally with it. And as I started reading through it, I'm like, I'm going to buy this book. And I picked it up. I spent an entire day when we got back home just diving into this book, reading all the lore I could, trying to get what I could out of it. And I'm like, this book is really awesome at first glance, but I know it needs a deeper dive.
Well, then like the next day is when you were like, hey guys, Halloween One-Shot.
Yep.
Yes, because it was something new that
Yep.
we never played before. And so my hesitations, though, and I will be honest about this, and I'm going to post on YouTube, by the way. This is going to be our first look at Nibiru table talk session, essentially. My first opinion was, one, awesome setting, really cool system. It's a very awesome cooperative gaming experience from what I
yeah.
could read before even playing it. But my problem was when I want somebody to give me a brand new setting that I've never experienced before, a brand new setting that I know nothing about. You need to give me the base rules of the world, right? But what I mean by that is I need to know the base underlying themes and what actually is going on behind the scenes so I can build stories around that. Nibiru does not give you that. It doesn't answer the question of where are we at, why are we here, what are we doing here, how did we get here? It just says, here's what we are. Here's where we've been for fucking millennia, essentially. Deal with it. There's no answering of the questions of why are these different types of vagabonds out there? What are they here for? What do they even mean? What's their purpose? None of that's answered. And for me, as a sci-fi lover, somebody who's read like Stephen Baxter, so hard sci-fi, and then sci-fi fantasy, so Star Wars, I've run the gauntlet of sci-fi. And this, for me, straddles this really interesting point between science fantasy and science fiction. Because the questions you have aren't answered.
It feels to me a lot. If I can interject.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It feels a lot to me like a kind of like this weird intersection of sci-fi and cosmic horror.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of these questions, a lot of these things that you just don't get answers to, and we may come as things go along, as the stories unfold, you may come across things that are weird and strange and unusual anomalies, and you may never get an answer to that.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've seen the author be very open to all sorts of interpretations of the lore. They have been awesome about supporting, that's what you did for a game? That's awesome. Have fun with it. And at that point, that's where it clicked for me. I'm like, you know what? There may not be an actual underlying story that's ever revealed, but the point is, the creator of this game, the creator of this lore, the person who spent all this time and effort and blood and tears, 100% I guarantee you that, from experience, into building this world for you to play in, is like, you know what? Here's what I've made. Take it and make it your own. And that is rare in a storytelling game.
That takes a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of guts.
That takes a massive set of balls.
And I think in execution, it works amazingly well. I can't sing this game's praises enough. And this comes from a point where I was originally doubting if I was going to enjoy running it, how it was going to go over my players, if it was going to be a worthwhile experience. But having delved into it and actually wrote the story again for the third time today before we played, I do that a lot. I found...
We did, in fact, stop using the word apricots.
Yeah. I found the niche I wanted to portray. And the system, not only did it not hinder me, it invited me to make those types of changes, which for me was amazing.
Well, and from a player standpoint, right? Looking at this system, and this is going to sound so shitty, but we have all played in games where someone has been a purposely antagonistic ST.
Yeah.
This game is not built for that.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's not built to allow it at all.
If you guys had an antagonistic ST, a storyteller, this game would fall flat.
Yeah.
It has to be cooperative storytelling between players and the storyteller. It has to be.
Which, for me, as someone who has been a victim in the past of ST bullying, this is refreshing. There is no... I mean, obviously, Ray, you've never bullied me, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know what you've been... I've heard stories, and I've also been part of those stories.
And so you've experienced them.
Yeah.
We've all experienced that.
Yep.
But it's like...
At one point or another.
There is no chance for that. There can be no chance for that. The way the game is built, the way the world is written, and the way your characters get built, you cannot do that. And that is unbelievably refreshing.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like, I've been very, very happy with the way things have gone with this game. As a one-shot, just a one-shot tonight, I was super impressed with, one, the way it forced ingenuity from my players to think of ways that their memories could come into play, but also it made me a partner in them developing the story of their characters and them like telling the nature of their memories. And that's rare for me. because usually any game you usually come into it where it's like, all right, I've been my characters, my backstory, here's what I've been through, etc. It is what it is. The storyteller may all right, well, let's edit this out. This is what happened here, and here's where we're going to change this a little bit. But that's all pre-game, right?
Yeah, that's session 0.
Right, that's the session 0 stuff. Here, session 0 is literally game session 1. Because we don't know. We don't know where your memories are going to take us. We don't know how you're going to spend your memory points. We don't know the story we're going to develop during the course of play.
Which is part of where that cosmic horror concept comes in, which is just so fucking fun for me. And it doesn't involve reading books and going crazy.
Yeah,
right.
Like just looking at the
Neither of us
artwork.
know.
Oh,
the players don't know.
Oh my god, the artwork for this
players
book.
don't know, and the storyteller doesn't know
Like,
either.
going back to that, it kind of does remind me of this merger of Lovecraftian and Geiger kind of.
Yeah.
I get that.
It feels very Geiger.
The artwork in this book is superb. I spent hours today. I was supposed to stream with Amara today and do Dead by Daylight, but I was so caught up in trying to make sure I had all my PNGs, the transparency I made of all the characters, because I bought a physical copy and a digital copy. So
That's right.
I double dipped.
Into DVD next week.
Yeah, we will. But I double dipped, so I was making PNGs off of screenshots I had taken from the book. So the mermaid you guys saw, I actually spent 20 minutes making a PNG, a transparency of that character, and then one for the creature itself. So it was a lot of work.
Did anybody notice they still had feet?
They did, because it was just wrapped
Yeah.
around their bottom past
Yeah.
the torso.
That was creepy and cool and just
Yeah, it was a messed up thing.
As soon as I saw that thing too, I was sitting there going,
it's awfully flat.
I was like, maybe they eat rust. Maybe they'll eat the rust particles.
me as the kind of the veteran, vagabond. I'm looking at this thing nobody should be out here.
Right.
What?
Why? Why do you exist?
Right.
And the second you said anglerfish, I went, fuck.
And he immediately caught on, because that's exactly what they are. The mermaids use the top half of the corpse to lure other people into the depths that the other
sad part
mermaids.
is I played a fucking Nosferatu anglerfish. I should have caught on to that shit.
Yeah, it's super cool. And so when Jeff's character Seth was in that little the coolant tank, there were 2 mermaids down there, but they were just the raw creature, not with a corpse attached.
Right. So they were really fucking hungry.
Yep. And he put them down there for a purpose. To
one of them
dissuade people
dead.
trying to swim away.
One of them
Right.
was dead now.
Yeah, one's dead now. It's pinned to the bottom of the fucking tank. But it was really cool to see that kind of evolve. And in my mind, I'm like, if Lucas makes it to the platform, they can draw him out to the bridge and knock him into the water.
And knock him in, yeah.
Right. But likewise, his nightmare or him could knock you into the water. I'm like, this
Right
is
in
a
the
very
water.
dangerous situation.
Which is
Yeah,
why
it was
my
bad
ass
day.
went, you're staying there, bitch.
I
By the
love.
way,
Go ahead.
I do want to say that was very well planned out.
Yeah.
You did the kind of classic. You did a very classic horror move where you basically do the Chekhov's gun of horror, as it were, where you show the creature in one stage and it's that's disturbing on its own.
And it
But
showed
then it goes
up.
off and it. But then
Yep.
it goes off and it does something later on that's even worse, and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so,
the chase in general was very horror movie esque, the
Oh, yeah.
Michael Myers walking through, just walking down the sidewalk chasing someone who's running. That's almost exactly what happened here with Lucas.
yeah.
So it was very Halloweeny. I enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
I enjoyed writing it, to be honest, with the environment in Nibiru, and I try to portray, the environment the way I envisioned it, with the moss and the fungus and the way the electricity is being worked, the way structures are put together. How did that feel as players to have?
alien.
It was so weird. Not weird in a bad way, but it was weird. I want to know more. I want to know how it got this way. I
It
want to
was
know
alien.
what
yeah.
makes it work. Because this should not function.
Hey everybody, I was just going through the rest of this file in the editor. Unfortunately, the sound and quality of everything after that in the recording kind of just went a little crazy and is really kind of messed up, so I've had to ditch it all. I couldn't really fix much of it, so I'm not quite sure what happened, but it's probably something when I downloaded it. Regardless, essentially the review was that this game was a lot of fun. The players enjoyed it. Our audience really enjoyed it. I really liked running it, so definitely give it a shot if you can. Check it out. Like I said, in this video on Drivethru RPG or Amazon.com or the publisher's website or your local gaming store. I will put some links for availability down below in the description for this video, but it was a lot of fun, and I think we're going to do it again sometime. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, guys. Have fun.